Hi guys, welcome back to the channel today. In this video we're going to be making a simple wrap top with bishop sleeve, so let's get started. To make a wrap top, you will need the following body measurements. To make this top, the first thing I went ahead to do was to measure out the length of the top, and using my bust measurement as well, I cut out a piece that is just enough for me to cut out the back part of this top. Next thing I went ahead to do was to mark my bust point, which is 10 inches, taking the top of this fabric as my shoulder line. So that is what I'm doing right now. So this point I just marked is my bust point, and after that, still taking that point as a shoulder line, I went down to 13 inches and I marked it, and I'm also extending the line as well. This is going to be my under bust line, and then the end of the fabric is going to just serve as my waistline. After doing that, I went ahead to divide my shoulder measurement by 2, and I marked it on the shoulder line, and then on the bust line, as you see me doing like this, I went up by 2 inches. After going up by 2 inches, I just made the line to meet the end of the fabric, and then I'm extending my line from the shoulder to meet that line as well. So this is how you can easily get your armhole curve. After that, getting that, I went down on my shoulder by 1 inch, because as usual we always do this, our shoulder is not straight, so we have to have a shoulder slant. After getting the shoulder slant, I'm dividing the measurement I have on my shoulder by 2, and after getting that, I went in from that point by ½ inch, and after that I'm just marking my bust measurement divided by 4 on that chest line that we had earlier, and then I'm just going to connect all the new dots, as you see me doing like this, to get my armhole. So after getting the armhole, it's pretty much very easy from here. We've already gotten our bust measurement, so I'm just adding 2 inches as stitching allowance to that part, and then I went down to the waistline, the waist point, marked my waist measurement, and then added an extra 2 inches as well as stitching allowance. And as you can see, I'm just joining the lines together. So after doing that, the next thing is for me to determine how deep the neck was going to be. So I decided to mark it 2 inches deep, and it was 2.5 inches wide. So after that, I am just making a curve around for the neck, and then that's basically all. I normally don't bother myself with that when I'm making wrap tops, and it usually doesn't actually pose like a problem at the end of the day. So this is basically how I cut the back of my wrap tops. After cutting the back, I went ahead to arrange another piece that I'm going to use as the front. I folded it into 2 because there are going to be 2 sides of the front. So basically what I'm doing right now is I just placed the back part of it on this new piece of fabric, and I just pinned it down. So guys, I really want to quickly point this out. So when you place your back piece on another piece of fabric, which is the front, ensure that the center back is facing the part that has a lot of allowance, so that you have enough room to cut out the wrap. So guys, after placing it, the next thing I'm just going to do is to cut around the armhole, cut the sides, cut the shoulder, and then we're going to measure out the wrap part of it. Every other thing is going to be the same apart from the front. So I'm just basically tracing out every other thing apart from the front part. So guys, after cutting out everything, the next thing you're going to do is on the waist part, you're going to divide your waist measurement by 4, and whatever you have there, you're going to come out from it from the center back. I hope you saw how I just did it. So after marking that, you're going to come to the neckline and you're going to come down by as much inches as you want it to be. This is what determines how deep your wrap top is. I came down here by 6 inches because I do not want my boobs to show at all. So I think it's actually best the lower you get, the more revealing your boobs are going to be. So for this particular one, I marked 6 inches, and then I'm just going to connect that to the shoulder, and from the 6 inches point on the neck, I'm just going to connect it to the point I made around the waist. So this is basically all. This is how I cut my wrap tops. It's actually very easy, and with this method, by not going too deep in the neck area, I avoid my boobs showing. So if you're someone who wants to reveal some flesh, then definitely you can decide to go down in the bust area, but I particularly love to put mine on 6 inches. So this is basically all. This is how you cut out your wrap top. This is the front part. It's very easy. So now if I open it up, it's going to basically just come out like this, and it's just easy. This is how easy it is. But I feel because I'm self-taught, most of these things are just I just like to find out easy ways to just cut out patterns for myself that are just easier for me. So next thing I went ahead to do, guys, was to cut out the sleeve. And sadly, while I was cutting out the sleeve, I honestly thought that I was recording, only to find out later that I did not record. It was so painful. So basically what I did here was using that slash and spread method that I shared in one of my previous tutorials. You should definitely check that out. And for this particular one, I went out by about half of an inch. I didn't really give it a lot of space, so that's why it's not so big. So moving on, next thing I'm going to do now is to start joining the pieces together. I hope that you go back to actually check up that sleeve. So I just placed the shoulder parts together, as you see me doing like this, and what I'm doing is just holding it down with my pins, just so it stays right where I want them to be. And I'm just going to head over to the sewing machine, and what I'm going to do is to stitch it up here and here. So this is what it looks like after I was done stitching it up. Next thing we're going to work on now is in the neck area, and for this particular part, you can decide to cut out a facing for it. You can use bias tape, and also you can use this method that I'm using right now, which is just to fold it up once and fold it again with about half an inch, and you're just going to pin it down. You can pin it all the way around. That's if you will not be able to arrange it as you're sewing. I'm going to be able to arrange it. That's why I just made 2 pins. I just used 2 pins just for the purpose of this tutorial. So what I'm going to do is to head over to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch this all the way around, folding it up like this. So this is what it looks like after I was done stitching it around. Now next thing we're going to work on is on the sleeves, and for this we're just going to fold it up once and fold again, as you see me doing like this. That's the end of the sleeve, and I'm just going to head over to the sewing machine to stitch it down on one side so that we can get our elastic casing. After that, I just went ahead to place an elastic band around my wrist, as you see me doing like that, just to make sure that is enough to go around my wrist and is free enough. And after that, I am just using my safety pin to just pass the elastic through my casing on the sleeve. You want to ensure that you hold your elastic in place at the ends with pins so that it doesn't pull through the other side, because if you don't hold it with your pins, you're just going to end up going over and over the process. So after doing that for the both sleeves, putting the elastic casing at the elastic through the casing, the next thing I'm just going over to do is to attach the sleeve to the top itself. And for this, I'm just pinning the sleeve all the way around the armhole. So after doing this, I'm just going to head over to the sewing machine and stitch it with about half an inch all the way around. After I was done with that, this is what it looks like. And basically I'm almost done with this dress. That's how simple it is to make a wrap dress. It's actually very easy. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to head over to the sewing machine. I remember while we were cutting, I gave this top a 2-inch stitching allowance, so I'm just going to head over to the sewing machine and stitch it up from the sleeve all the way to the end with 2 inches stitching allowance. So I'm through with that. I've stitched it down on the side, and what's left now is for me to get like ropes to tie this around the waist. And for that I just marked 4 inches wide ropes, and what you see me doing like this is just cutting out different strips because I could not get a very long one. So I'm just cutting out different pieces, and what I'm going to do is to just join them together to make it long. Next thing I'm going to do is to just join each rope to one side of my wrap. So this part here, I'm just going to place the rope right on it like this, and I'm going to hold it down with my pin. And you know, because the top itself I cut it in a straight line, there's something like a triangle in front. You're just going to cut that off, and then I will just do the same thing for the other side as well. Place it at the point where it's equal with the front part of the top, and then cut off the excess. So basically that's all, and this is what it looks like after I was done stitching it with the sewing machine. It's very beautiful, and if you've not seen a tutorial of me making this short knicker, definitely you need to go and check it out as well. Thank you so much for watching the video today. I will see you in my next one.